Ladies and gentlemen, Zach from Card Bros Union here, and today we are back at it. Well, with, as promised, very, as in below or around $50, depending on where you get your cards from, budget Dark World, Danger Dark Worlds deck. This is the deck I brought to locals, and I won one, lost two. But not bad for under $50. So if you're just starting to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or if you just want another deck to try out, which this deck is phenomenal for that once you get the hang of it, this is a deck you could try as an entry-level deck. It's very fun to play, and it's also easily upgradable. Most of the upgrades that you would do to this deck are just enhancing the danger support that this deck has, as well as getting a couple other key cards. Now, I will say this deck does have one spicy attack. And you will see that, well, if you're familiar with the deck, you can already see the outlying Utopia double support. But moving on, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's get into this. First, we're going to want to run triple Rainbow over King of Dark World. Now, what does he do? Well, he does a lot of things. When he's discarded, he searches, basically Grapha, unless you want to play Rip Hands Away, you search Silva. But most of the times you're going to be searching Grapha when you discard. His other effect is you bounce back a card that's on field to summon, and then usually you'll do that, and then you'll also do that with Grapha, bringing back Rain. And what this allows you to do is have lots of cards in your hand for, ammunition against your opponent. Next, we're moving on. We got our Danger Bigfoot. Now, if you were to upgrade this, I would maybe not run Bigfoot, maybe run Nessie instead. The purpose of the dangers is to start looping your hand, getting your hand going, so you can draw, put power on the board, and then especially 3000 beat stick, not bad. And it comes straight out of the structure deck, so there's no reason really not to run this guy. And then on top of that, when he's discarded, you get to choose one face up and pop it. So it's a good board breaker card, that's for sure. And it's a level 8, runs into our rank 8s. Pretty nice. Attribute dark, and it is a beast, unfortunately. But moving on. She's a beast. Next, we're doing the same thing with Danger Thunderbird, also a level 8 dark, except pretty much same as Bigfoot, except it pops a set card instead of a face up, and it's not as beefy, but that's only by 200 attack. So you run 3 of those. We love dangers. Dangers keep our hands going, as I mentioned before. And then of course our big main guy, Grapha. Just can't kill him. You can't kill him, he comes back. So Grapha, pretty much when discarded, he pops any card on the opponent's field. And then on top of that, you can also bounce back an existing Dark World monster on your side to summon Grapha on the field, which is really sick. And then Grapha is also a target for our Dark World Accessions to fusion into our bigger Grapha, but we'll get to that later. Silva, really cool card. We only run him at 1. We don't need more than 1. We only use him seldomly. But I will say, he is a really good target for when you pop off Big Grapha or Cerule's effects where the opponent makes you discard. Because then you get to snatch 2 away from your opponent's hand. And if you manage to do this going first and they haven't done their turn yet, well, it's hard to play Yu-Gi-Oh! With 3 cards in your hand. Well, 4 cards in your hand because they draw 1. 4 cards in your hand. But it just becomes a pain in the butt. And then on top of that, he special summons himself, and he's pretty beefy. He's a whopping 23. Most of the time he's 26 due to our field spell coming out. And then if we do have other spells out, he can get pretty beefy up there. But moving on to our, not final, but our second to last danger card support. We've got our Danger Mothman. He's basically Dark World dealings on likes. It's perfect. And the most important part, I will say, is that he's a level 4. Because he gets us into our rank 4 plays, which is super important in this deck. This deck is really good at making rank 4 plays. So, if anything you take away from this, your main plays are going to be your Big Grapha and your rank 4s. Moving on, we got Snow. Snow's basically our searcher. Usually with Snow, we'll search either Genta if we don't have Genta in hand already, or we'll search Dark World Accessions if we don't have if we don't have it yet or in grave, because Dark World of Sessions is how we get into our big guy. And then he also has also another effect if they're special summoned, or not special summoned, if discarded by opponent, and I say opponent, and you'll see why. You get to target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, and then special summon a target, if any, in defense position, so you get to steal one out of their grave, which is really sick. If you ever read any of the Dark World cards, or any of some of them, they're kind of, you kind of give yourself my mind's just blanking trying to think about what I'm gonna say. Here, I'll read it to you and let me know if it makes sense. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by card effect, if it was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, add one Dark World card from your deck to your hand, then special summon that target, if any, in defense position. We love you, Konami. Alright, next. Moving on, we've got Beige. Now, we run Beige at 3. By the way, if you didn't know, these Dark World cards are just colors. Beige, Snow, Silva. But Beige we love, because big thing about Dark Worlds is most of them are not once per turn. So you do it over and over and over and over again till you build board, and then you just lock your opponent out. It's sick. But Beige, we love Beige because when he is discarded by any means, he gets specialed out, and he's level 4, Fiend, Dark. Perfect attributes. On top of that, now we go into Genta. Really our play starter. We love Genta turn 1. Genta is essentially you discard and you get to add... It's basically terraforming on legs for Dark Worlds. You discard and you get your gates. And then once you get your gates, assuming you have another Fiend in hand, which I hope you do, because if you don't, it sucks. But assuming you have another Fiend in hand, you get to pop off, you get to draw extra cards with gates. And your monsters are 300 attack stronger. And on top of that, to resolve your Dark World, Gates of the Dark World, you have to banish and discard. So not only do you get a discard effect, you also get to banish Gates and why, or not Gates. You get to banish Genta, and why is that good? Well, Genta has the effect where this one's a hard once per turn. Once per turn, if it is banished, it gets special summon. And what is it? Level 4. It's a Fiend, and it's Dark. Perfect. Rank 4 plays out of the behind. Right. Now this one. I will preface this. I am a rather new Dark World player. I've been only playing for like 2 months. But a lot of people like to run Brow. Why? Draw power. And I understand that. I have never ever gotten to use the effect of Brow ever, because every time I have Brow in hand and I have the opportunity to discard, I discard something else because it's more important and more relevant in the current play. Run him at 2, but I think right now he's only placeholding for more danger cards. So do with that information what you will. Our last danger card, Danger Suchi. It's just another body. This one's more link fodder because it's not a level 4. Unfortunately, but no matter what, Danger Suchi gets special summoned, and that's what we love about it. Little snick. But, moving on, we've got our Ceruli, Guru of the Dark World. And this one's kind of like a little mini henchman version of the big Grapha. And that's, you get to, when he's discarded, you get to special it on your opponent's side of the field, and then your opponent makes you discard. And we love that, because that gets us into our secondary effects for all of our Dark World cards. So, good stuff there. We love Ceruli. Card destruction, no explanation needed. Dark World dealings, Danger Mothman without legs, handicap, Danger Mothman. Draw one first, discard one, and you can see why we like the discard. We've got Dark World Puppetry, basically all 3 DD Crows at once, and then it also helps us discard. And then on top of that, you can banish it from grave, target one banished Fiend monster, and add it to your hand. Which is nice because Grapha, or summoning Grapha, tends to get some Fiend monsters banished. Or if you use Puppetry to banish your own card, then go for it. Dark World Accession, So this is the main honcho card. We run it at 1 because it's searchable by snow, and you tend to run into it a lot. But Dark World Accession, I'll go ahead and read the full effect. During the main phase, fusion summon 1 Fiend monster from your extra deck by banishing materials mentioned on it from your field or graveyard. If fusion summoning a Dark World monster this way, which you are, you can also discard monsters as material. So discard, meaning you get to pop off the effect. Grapha goes to grave, not banished. And Grapha also gets to pop when you use it. And then whatever else you use from hand. But during your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand, then discard 1 Dark World monster. You can only use each effect of Dark World Accession once per turn. So do not be afraid of discarding your Dark World Accessions. It's gonna happen, but if anything, it works for you because you get to discard to bring it back, which is good. So, then Spicy Meatball Attack. Double or nothing. Rank Force. Why not? Dark World Archives. So next we're going on to, this one's a little more complicated, not really. Basically you get to beef up your Dark World cards by 100 per level for a card that you discard. On top of that, if you discard something because of a Dark World card, you can discard yet another card and then draw 2 cards. So draw power there, and it's a continuous spell. Real good stuff, and if you really want it, it's searchable by snow. And then Gates of the Dark World. I pretty much explained this earlier, but Gates of the Dark World, you run at 3. And the main play is you want to activate as many of these as possible, of course, without overextending. You can activate all 3 of these in one turn and get to use its banish 1, discard 1 effect, and then draw. So it's a good card to use. Now, moving on. We have our Big Grapha, and Big Grapha is broken. So when an opponent activates a monster effect or a normal spell trap while you have cards in your hand, so this is a quick effect, you can activate this effect. Activated effect becomes your opponent discards 1 card, which is good because that gets us into our secondary plays. So it's your opponent telling your opponent, which is you are the opponent's opponent, discarding a card. Secondary effects. Love to see it. You can only use that effect once per turn, but if this fusion summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, so the other guy, you can special summon 1 Grapha Dragon of Dark World that is banished or in your graveyard, then you both discard a card. It's broken. Alright, next, moving on, we're going into our Xyz cards. Hope Harbinger, this is essentially just a spell negate on legs, and then on top of that, if someone else is getting attacked, you can redirect it to Hope, which is nice, especially when you bring out Appaloosa at 3 instead of 4, because that's what you tend to do. Utopia and Utopia double at the end. Here, I'll just go ahead and skip to that. All works for the double or nothing tag. Baguska, basically another you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh card. Good to have, easy to make. Rank 4. Dugaris is a must-have, and I think he's actually going to be the most expensive card on this list, just because he hasn't been reprinted in a while. But Dugaris is essentially, you're only going to use him to draw 2, discard 1, and skip next draw phase. This lets you get into more plays, and the discard doesn't even hurt you, and then the draw 2 is just more cards for you to play with on that turn. You really want to make board as soon as possible with this deck. That's all you're aiming for. So skipping over Utopia double. Next, we're going to Skuldra. You always want to make them with 4+ or 4 cards. You always want to draw 4 and then get rid of 3. And then that's all I really use them for, personally. Appaloosa is really good. Negate monster effects. Ideally, in the upgraded version, you're missing IP Masquerena. You want to IP Masquerena into Appaloosa. So you have Invincible Appaloosa, you have Hope Harbinger on board, and then you just swing into Harbinger instead of Appaloosa, and Appaloosa just sits there, negate monster effects 3 times, which is sick. Blackluster Soldier, this is kind of a last resort card. You can easily make this. You just bounce any Dark World to hand, and you summon Grapha, and then you make BLS with Grapha and two other cards that you can special summon out the behind. And then you can just bring Grapha back. Honestly, it's broken. And then also, not only that, Blacklist Soldier has full protection, so it cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And then it's just its effects are broken. It's a great card, and the card alone, depending on what deck you're playing against, can win you game. So that pretty much concludes main deck and extra deck. Side deck, I'm not going to get into side deck. I pretty much just ran triple copies, a Goes in match, Skill Drain, and Dark Ruler No More. But Dark Ruler No More is expensive, so don't worry about that. But yeah, just any Floodgate card. You like cards that kind of help you stick to dark attributes and fiends. But that pretty much concludes our really budget danger discard deck. So let me know what you think. Play with it. I mean, for under $50, this is a sick deck. So try it out and let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see y'all next time.